Welcome to The Oracle Scroll, a podcast for the spiritual seeker. Please join me, Kevin Walder, your host, as we explore living a spiritual life in a very mixed up world. Welcome to the Oracle Scroll, episode 31, and the very first episode of this new year, 2019. I'm not quite sure how to begin this, so there's a little business to take care of, to explain some of the intricacies that went into the hiatus we just experienced. And then we have to look forward to what this year is actually holding and what will develop in the near future. Well, I guess let's just start with the housekeeping. I put together the Oracle Scroll back in March of 2018 at the encouragement of several people that I respect in the community, and I've often been told that this is kind of the route I should be going, but I've not been paying very close attention, obviously. It took me this long. So, in March, I launched the Oracle Scroll, and believe me, it's not as easy as it looks or sounds. It's a little challenging, trying to make sure you're presenting yourself in a way that is appropriate and pleasing to yourself so that you are confident in your message and you're confident in your presentation. You're confident in the way you put forth your idea and your energy so that hopefully others may be able to glean some understanding or some motivation or some bit of redemption, perhaps, from your presentation. And that was how I approached it. I approached it rather reverently in that I tested many different sounds, music, different sounds that I can choose for my voice to make. There are a variety of different things that go into producing a podcast that has some value to it. And I felt I had done that. And I will underline this part. I had presented a product that I was very proud of, that I felt confident, said what I wanted it to say, said it in a way that I was comfortable with saying it, and put forth the idea and the ideal of what I was attempting to put across. In October, I was working along that same guideline, putting together some interviews, things that needed to be talked about, or at least felt to me to be very pertinent to the time we were in at that point in October of 2018. At about that time, some people that I respect, some people that let me preface that. I respect them because of who they are. I don't have any frame of reference for their work in my field and how they might do something similar to what I'm doing. I have no clue there. So as far as their experience is concerned, I'm not aware of any. But I care about these people and I appreciate their input at times. But in October, I was pretty much blindsided in a way, I guess is the only way I can explain it. And I was told in so many words. And again, whenever you have one of these conversations, we all have people like this in our lives. You have to read between the lines as well, and you get the full picture if you do that. That's what I was doing, and basically I was being pretty much called out, for want of a better word, for being too polished and too this, too that. And it just took the stuffings out of me, if that's a word or it's term we can use here in the North. It just made me feel defeated. It made me feel like, wow, this isn't what I had hoped it would be. This hasn't produced the result I wanted. I really wanted to spark some interest, some conversation, and I still feel that we as a spiritual community spend far too little time communicating with each other. And sometimes that's really important because we're often feeling the same things, thinking the same way. We're often put into situations where we're responding very similarly without having touched base with anyone. How much more cohesive could we be if we were to actually come together and actually understand each other and appreciate each other for the work we do? So let's just suffice it to say that October was it was a turning point. It was a rather challenging time because I really looked at, okay, is this worth continuing? Does it need changing? What can we do to make it less stodgy, perhaps? I never thought of myself that way, but perhaps. What can we do to make it more inclusive and make others feel more comfortable participating and being part of this project? And it is a community project. It's not just me. It's not just mine. It's a community. I really had that vision in the beginning, and I still hope to accomplish that. So we took a couple of months just to, I'll admit, part of it was licking our wounds. Yes, part of it was a little bit of self-indulgent self-pity, and I'm entitled. I'll say that. So after that, it became, well, what do we do? The equipment we've put together to produce is just sitting idle and collecting dust. So what do we do, and how are we going to proceed? So this is the very first step outside of that little box where we pretty much had things laid out. We knew what we were going to talk about each week. And yes, there were scripts involved, and yet I always made sure to ad-lib along with that so that it wasn't, just reading the paper. I did actually work to make it conversational and draw the audience into it. So that part hasn't changed at all. So I'm still trying to make it a conversation. So here we are. We're in January of 2019. Now, January of 2019, for me, was something I was really, really looking forward to on nearly every level of our lives. We are at a point of new beginning, starting over, and making it what we want this time rather than what we were told we might need. So this is a little different position for us to be in, and we appreciate that position. We're very appreciative of that opportunity. So 2019 dawned, and we began that process, and things were feeling very uplifted, and there was more of a, It was a little bit of bright light in that dark corner that was 2018. I'm not sure about you, but 2018 it was a hard one. It was a slugfest, and we just got beat up so badly, some of us, and it looks like 2019, we're still going to be cleaning up. We're still going to be cleaning up. Someone I was talking with about the situation said, well, if your house burned down on Christmas, you're still going to be cleaning up the mess at New Year's. And that's very, very true. We still have a lot to do to just get rid of that old, stale energy that just, that kind of stuff hangs, and it just draws us back, pulls us back, and we don't want to be there. So I did put out a newsletter at the beginning of the month of January, and I, again, at that point was very hopeful, looking forward. And in the newsletter, I talked about, I try to coordinate everything that I do with the meanings and the archetypes that are contained within the tarot. The tarot speaks to me, and I really enjoy looking at the various ways that it communicates, actually, with us. And the card I talked about was card number 20, the Judgment card. I always consider the Judgment card to be right up there in the top tier of absolutely positive, oh my God, plug me in energy cards. There are a few that are they're overwhelmingly positive in their energy, and they just beg for us to accept. And I find the Judgment card to be one of those that is right up there in the top tier. And it's card number 20. It's the second to the last card in the deck if you go numerically. And it is based on the resurrection story from the book of Revelations in the Bible. And that's another thing we have to kind of reconcile sometimes, is there are transitional kind of images that I put in the traditional tarot, where you'll have some very pagan influences right next to some very Christian influences, and you can see how they kind of blended the whole thing together to make whatever we have today that's called organized religion. So what I like about this card, what I really like about this card is the energy of redo, okay? It is rejuvenation, rebirth. It is actually based on that story of a resurrection story. It's the Archangel Gabriel sounding his trumpet and raising the dead to come back to a life of judgment for their activities or reward for their activities in their former life. So it's a very powerful redo kind of card. It's like another chance, and it seemed to me to speak at that point, before we got into this year, it seemed to me to speak of our prospects for 2019. This is our chance to wipe the slate clean and start over again. So the energy that I enjoy receiving from that is, this is our chance to have that makeover, that real makeover. I'm not talking hair, makeup, and suits. I'm talking real internal and motivational makeover that keeps us functioning and moving. So the energy is one of encouragement and facilitating your own re-emergence. We often use that analogy of the caterpillar, and as the caterpillar's life comes to an end and he is securely ensconced in his cocoon and then begins to break out into the butterfly. So it's it reminds us that sometimes we have to go through hell before we can be transformed. And that is what I see as our 2019. Now, veering off that just a little, in the days since the beginning of this month, which now we're quite late in the month, it has come to my attention that we have a lot of serious issues that have just popped up. We ourselves, in my own small family, experienced a death in the family shortly after the beginning of the month. A friend of ours was stricken with a surprise heart attack that, not that they ever give us warning, but this one was really out of nowhere. I mean, you look at some people and you think, okay. People look at me and think, there's a heart attack waiting to happen. This is a person who physically fit and has done so much to take care of their health and has spent a career in helping others take care of their health. And now being stricken like this is out of the blue. It really is. And we've had other friends who've experienced similar things, loss of a pet, loss of a parent. So 2019 continues what we began in 2018. Some of it will be much better. Some of it, not so much. Part of it, in fact, a great part of it, has a lot to do with how we're looking at it. How are we viewing it? How are we responding to it ourselves? Oh, and this is something we all work on, and I'm right there with you. I work on it all the time, too. It is difficult. It is challenging, but we just have to keep plugging away at adjusting our attitudes. And this card, the number 20, the judgment card, is the same as any other card in the major arcana in the tarot. It's the energy that is intended to help with life's challenges, the situations that we find ourselves in from a day-to-day basis. But it is there to assist in achieving any goal that you might have set for yourself in your personal transformation. But they do not possess the power to do that work for you. They do not possess the power to make any decisions for you. They do not possess the power to lead you in any particular way. You have to decide how much of the advice, how much of that assistance you're going to receive, how much you're going to accept, and how much you're going to put into practice. That's the story of the tarot cards. I have family who are deathly afraid of the satanic influence, and I put that in quotes, of the tarot. They give them power that the cards never dreamed of having. These cards are just triggers for our own intuition and our own psyche to bring together our own healing and our own understanding to bring about change. So sometimes they can feel a little pushy. Sometimes when they gang up on us and we see a whole bunch of cards that say basically the same thing over and over again, and we know we're not paying attention when that happens, sometimes they can be a little pushy. But with this card in particular, we're talking about the transformation that it is talking about. Actually, the ultimate transformation, moving from a lifeless state to a life-filled state is the biggest transformation one can make. So imagine, imagine what those people who would experience this, imagine that joy, the boisterous celebration that would follow that kind of a transformation. It's there, but we have to be ready and willing to do that work. We can't just wait and hope. Those are very valuable aspects of spiritual life. Waiting, not being too anxious, not being too demanding, not being married to any outcome. Those are all spiritual principles. But being patient is just one of those blocks. Being willing to take the steps necessary to effect change, that's some more. That's the rest of the can of blocks right there. You can dump those out on the floor, and then you can begin to assemble your structure. This card's also really good about removing the blocks and things that keep us stuck. We have those. Everybody has something that just keeps us stuck in place, and it's like we're flailing at the wind. We're running in place. So for 2019, it's time for us as a group, as a spiritual community, to think about individually and as family, your immediate family first, and your expanded family beyond that, your chosen family, anyone that is close enough to you to cause you to reflect upon yourself. Those are the people we need to include in our musings, in our imaginings, in the things that we are thinking about for our own future. They're involved, These people are all involved in our future. So let's start treating them that way. Draw them into our plans. Draw them into the way we look at life and the way we're going to build ourselves into a new situation. And further, as we look forward into 2019 and realize that the almost endless campaign season begins this year. And I'm sorry, but it isn't exciting. It isn't exciting on a number of levels. And so it's for us to decide how are we going to deal with this. And as I see it, we have several choices. Not all of them are legal and not all of them are advisable, but we have several choices. The way I see it, we have a tremendous mountain of negativity that is just poised to explode, and it is about to take a lot of us with it. So we have to figure out how we're going to deal with that. How are we going to keep that from invading our own personal space, our own personal mental space, and the way we conduct our personal lives? So I think in 2019, I would love to see us put forth a goal of committing as many acts of kindness as we can possibly fit into a year. And these can take many, many forms. They can be anonymous. They can be something that you might be able to help with. We don't have to have massive piles of cash in order to accomplish something meaningful. Helping someone with something that is so demanding they're not able to attack it and take care of it, helping them with that situation might be your best bet, might be our best bet. But the thing is, be aware and be on top, looking for situations where your assistance could make a huge difference in someone's life. Begin there. Begin there. Begin with our family. Begin with our closest friends and work our way out from there. And we paid a lot of attention in the last couple of weeks to quotes from Martin Luther King Jr., since that was his birthday just last week. So it's time. It's time to understand that we will never, ever defeat darkness with more and more darkness. We'll never defeat a tyrant with tyrannical responses. The only way to defeat any of those is to show everyone around us there's a better way. And when we look at the absolute hatred and horrible bigotry that is being displayed prominently now, but we will never ever solve that problem by being vengeful toward those people. And believe me, I know that is a tough principle. It's, the turn the other cheek. It's hard to do. It's hard to do when someone is actually physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually destroying people for their own pleasure. I don't understand that motivation. But it's there. And the only way to change that, to affect any kind of change in that regard, is to show that there is a better way. There is a way for all of us to coexist, to cooperate, and to just live a life that we have become accustomed to and attuned to. So let's commit to that. Can we call on that, our group and our community, to commit to putting forth an effort to build up your family, build up your neighbors, build up the people important to you. Show them how what they're doing is helping you, helping others. Show them how they are so important in this world and they have something constructive to add. That show them how this constant reminder of lack and the constant reminder of the bigotry and hatred that goes with that lack, how that is, that's just serving the enemy. That's just helping them foment more hatred. And that fits in their plan. And very calculated. It just hurts when you look at the situations in the world and the lack of caring. I think that is probably one of the things that I find myself most disappointed in learning, is there is such a lack of caring. It is me first in this world, and we have to let's change that dynamic. Let's move that dynamic away from the me first and bring it around. Bring it around. That's our only hope for this new year, is to transform ourselves from someone who is either quietly bitter or outspokenly bitter. I guess that's the same word. And transform ourselves into someone who is quietly helpful, quietly uplifting, quietly loving and compassionate. And that is the conclusion of episode 31 of the Oracle Scroll. It is the very first episode of the new year. I thank you for joining me, and please spread the word, tell your friends, and we'll try and do this again real soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Please forward any questions, comments, or inquiries to theoraclescroll@gmail.com, and we'll look forward to entertaining you again very soon in the next episode.